I'm going to start and give an overview and also talk about my own situation. And then we're going to have a couple of teachers speak, Linda Clark and also Amy Talley and Alex Chung. Then we're going to have a parent and a student speak, Merha Afewerk, and also his father, Lowell Afewerk. And then we're going to have Shanta Driver, who is my personal attorney and who's also a national chairperson and spokesperson for the Equal Opportunity Now by Any Means Necessary BAM caucus with the BAM Civil Rights Organization. So, and if there are people, oh, my camera's not on. I'm so sorry. I did not even realize that. So thank you. All right. So did not see that. All righty. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming to this press conference. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Yvette Salarka, and I'm a teacher at Martin Luther King Middle School. I teach English language development. I also teach Avid Excel, and I teach 8th grade humanities. And I teach at Martin Luther King Middle School. I'm also a site rep for the BFT, and I'm here on behalf of the BAM caucus. I really want to thank my coworkers who are here as well, teachers and school staff, who are also fighting through some of the same and similar issues that I'm going to be describing, and really everyone here who's here to stand up for the rights and for the safety of our children and our communities, as well as for those of us who work and serve the students in the schools. Berkeley Unified School District, BUSD, is trying to force teachers and staff back into school sites in order to prematurely reopen the schools. The BUSD Human Resources Department announced their intention to revoke accommodations for teachers with underlying health conditions that put them at high risk for sickness and death from COVID-19. I provided a letter from my doctor to Human Resources of Berkeley Unified School District back in January, certifying that I have an underlying health condition that the CDC says places me at increased risk for severe outcome if infected with COVID. In February, Human Resources at BUSD approved my accommodation to teach from home until the end of the school year. But in the first week in March, Human Resources wrote me a letter demanding that my doctor conjecture on what impact being vaccinated will have on my current condition. They wanted it certifying that I, the patient, have an underlying condition and need accommodation is exactly what any doctor can and should do. That is what my doctor did. Anything else violates my right to privacy. There is no doctor or health official who can make an accurate, definitive conjecture on what impact the vaccine will have on an individual with underlying conditions who are exposed to COVID. This is blatant harassment in an attempt to force not only teachers, but also students back into classrooms without any regard for their safety. I oppose reopening schools while everyone in our community, including students and in particular students, have yet to be vaccinated. Some students' families rely on federal unemployment so they can stay home with their children to keep their family safe from COVID-19. But if schools are open in some form every day of the week, pandemic unemployment relief, PUA, will be cut. We know that children can become infected by and transmit coronavirus. Children can become sick and they can die from COVID-19. We know there are especially high rates of child hospitalization in Black and Latina and Latino communities and a huge disparity in death. Berkeley Unified School District's demand on teachers and staff with underlying health conditions to return to classrooms for face-to-face instruction puts everyone at risk. And it is the moral and legal obligation of teachers to defeat this cynical and dangerous scheme. We need to demand increased resources so that remote learning classes can be improved and not force people out of them, and certainly not create conditions that enable the danger to the health and safety of our students. So I'm going to turn this over now to Linda Clark, who is a special education teacher at Martin Luther King, who's going to talk more about her own experiences fighting through COVID, the impact of that, and also the impact that that can and will have, and has already had on a number of her students and their family. So I'll turn it over to you, Linda.
Okay, thank you. So I am very concerned about this situation because up until a couple of weeks ago, I was not worried because I thought I could get accommodations and be safe at home teaching till the end of the year. So I was shocked and upset to find out that the district has suddenly, without warning, reversed this policy. And as Ms. Valaka says, they've asked the doctors to do something that they can't possibly do. Nobody can say who would get COVID after they've been vaccinated. Nobody knows that. So it's just some kind of a ruse to get us back in. They're acting like they've given us an opportunity for accommodations, but they actually haven't. And quite frankly, I am terrified to go back to school. I've had COVID twice. I got it, first of all, when we went into the lockdown. I was quite ill, but recovered. I got it again in July, the end of July, and that was a mild bout. But since July, I've had what feels like a permanent asthma attack. I've lost 14% of my lung capacity. I measure it frequently because I am an asthmatic, and I can't breathe. The medicine I take does not help with that. I actually had an unexpected conversation with an asthma nurse today. I told her I can't breathe, and she said, oh, that's to be expected if you've had COVID. That's going to be the case for at least a couple of years. So it takes that long for some of that lung damage to heal. And she said, even then, it may not resolve itself. So I'm literally terrified of getting it again, because what happens if I get it, something else happening? Because you can get brain damage, you can get all kinds of different things from this disease. I don't want to be collateral damage. You know, I'm a person, not a statistic. And I've devoted 23 years of service to this district, and I feel badly treated at this moment in time. And I'm also really concerned about my students. I just worry about what's going to happen to them, because many of them have conditions as well. And one of my parents has already told me she is not sending her child back to school until there are vaccinations for children, because she's worried that the child will become ill and seriously ill. And there's the information about kids not getting COVID is just not true. I had one of my kids today said, oh, I can't do that because I have COVID. So it's happening to kids. Perhaps the district doesn't know about all the families that have actually had COVID, the kids that have been infected. But I am absolutely concerned. As soon as these schools get opened, we're going to see a big uptick in the number of cases, and people are going to get ill and die. And that really is upsetting to me. And I think that the numbers now are higher than when we locked down last March. So, I mean, I don't understand. So anyway, thank you for listening. And I don't know who was next, Ms. Valaka, but.
Thanks, Linda. Thank you. Amy Talley is going to speak. She's a technology teacher at Martin Luther King Middle School and has been trying to get accommodations, especially considering conditions of some members of her family, and to protect them. So Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Amy Talley. I teach all 3 grades at King Middle School. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th, computer science, STEM, and computer wheel. I also have 3 students in BUSD at elementary, middle school, and high school. I have provided BUSD documentation from our family doctor that states that I have a family member that I care for that meets the guidelines for high risk for COVID. I just got out of a meeting with HR where I asked specifically if their new required documentation of they need a medical provider note stating you continue to be at high risk to someone you are the caretaker of even after being vaccinated. And I asked the director of HR specifically if this is in any way connected to the ADA, FEHA rules and regulations. And she steadfastly talked around that and did not answer that question directly. It is my understanding that if you have a request for accommodations through ADA and FEHA, it's a long process. You have a doctor will then list out exact recommendations for accommodations. We're not in that stage yet of COVID. We're so early in the information that they're receiving. Our information is changing rapidly. Monday, we had new recommendations released by the CDC. I just believe that they're applying in an effort to fully staff the school in order to obtain the funds that they need to keep their business going. They are applying, like steadfastly applying rules to a request for accommodations that do not apply to this situation. The situation is fluid and new. And none of us will have had time to qualify for accommodations under ADA or FEHA by now. There's no way we could meet that requirement, and there's no way our medical providers could provide this letter unless we were previously qualified under ADA and FEHA. I would really like the public to understand that this is a risk that is being taken for funding, period. And I feel that the HR director made that very clear. Her business needs to run, it needs to be staffed, and she will look at accommodations based on how many teachers she needs in person at the school to keep the business going, period. That's really interesting. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Amy. I want to turn it over to Alex Chung, who is a new teacher in Berkeley, to speak, and your own commitment to making a fight for yourself and for the well-being of your household.
Hey, I am Alex. I'm a 6th grade SPED teacher at King Middle School. I've been at King for 2 months now, and here I am because I do not want to go back. I am not going back when the school reopens for in-person learning because I have a family member who I am not risking her of getting COVID. And that is regardless of whether I'm vaccinated or not, there's a chance and probability of me transmitting to her, and I'm not about to risk that. And if the HR is telling me that I need to, as a teacher, that I need to be there for my students, I just gotta say that my family comes before my career. And that's my point in this matter.
Good Thank job. You, Alex. And so I want to now invite Merha Afwerk and also his father, Lowell Afwerk, to speak, because so much of the way that the district is trying to present this issue and the way that they have deliberately tried to present this issue is in a false dichotomy, as if this is somehow a question of teachers versus students or teachers versus parents. And that's false. That is absolutely not true. Now, as teachers, as we're fighting for safety and the best possible safety measures for ourselves in going, whether in terms of school reopening or keeping the schools closed, that is fundamentally, simultaneously, and inherently also a fight for our students. And in reality, having fought and won the right to get vaccinated before the schools reopen, which is something that we're very proud teachers in Berkeley, but all over, are fighting for the right to. We also know that we're fighting for our students, and that until the students are vaccinated, they are also, and they will be, at highest risk when the schools reopen. and when they reopen prematurely, because we are still in the middle of a pandemic and COVID is changing. There are new variants and strains right here in Berkeley, in the Bay Area, and definitely in California. And so I'm really, really glad that Merha and his father are here, because our struggle and our fight for our rights is also an absolutely a struggle and a fight for our students' rights. And fundamentally, bottom line, the more young people and more families that come forward that fight for your rights to be safe and to learn safely, you know, the stronger all of us are. So either Merha or Lul, if you'd like to go, that would be great.
I will speak. I think putting children in COVID in like the school is wrong, because naturally kids are afraid of dying, and it's gonna be a panic inside the school. What are they gonna focus on more? Them being, you know, dying, and they're learning. And besides, we're still learning. And if we're at this state, it's like pushing us to the limit. The more you push yourself to the limit, the better you get. But if we go there, it's just gonna lower down the work. Because sometimes it's tough, but what makes you tough makes you strong. I think they just want us, and it makes me feel like if they want us to go back to school, it's making our minds weaker. We just have to hang in there, because you have to develop strength when you are weak. And I will pass it over to my dad.
I was amazed how you are articulate to put your positions. Okay, my name is Lou, and I have 2 kids. They are 10 and
12.
I'm sorry, 12. Still look like 2. But anyway, my big question for the authorities is, what is the difference now and a year ago? As a society, are we better off now, or are we better off a year ago? When I see the statistics, I don't think so. Or are we getting used to people are dying? I think we are getting used to people are dying, and we are kind of numb. Are we putting science in front of politics and economics? I do think so. So I'm kind of terrified. The second thing is, we have almost 100 years old grandma. She's our prized possession. And these kids, they go out and come back with something. That's a pure death sentence for her. And I think, I'm from Africa. America do better. And we are expecting better, because America is like, you know, the leader of liberty, innovation, human rights. And the right to exist is human rights too. And the right to exist is like, you know, because a year ago they told us that, you know, you have to distance. How on earth you can keep kids 6 feet? Forget it. It's not going to work that way. So I understand some of my parents, meaning my, you know, the parents have the issue of childcare or many other things. I understand that, but we can't have, why we can't stop the dichotomy, opening or closing. We should have some middle ground. And I don't think any parent or child to be forced to go to school at all. And I've been in this campaign with Miss Flarka. In the last 4 months, we were riding a caravan. And you can see right now in my van, you will see the COVID protest right now. So I'm constantly protesting, you know, to have a safe environment for the kids. And our kids are only prized possession. I do think so. I think that's the same for every parent. I don't have stock. I don't have factories. I don't have any assets but them. And now COVID is in between. So, you know, do something. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. I just want to say something about I'm kind of very scared about the district is about to be doing, because if I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but if they see that we're protesting, it may make them retaliate in a bigger way. I'm just willing to do what's right, but I'm just afraid about what they're going to retaliate, because they're the district, they're like the authority right now. And if they're the authority, they can do many huge things. It's going to be worse than them firing the police of what they did to a Black person.
Are you afraid of retribution?
I'm not afraid of retribution. I'm afraid about what's wrong.
Well, don't worry about that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So that's a great segue into our final speaker today, but other teachers and staff or community members who'd like to speak and support, great. Just let me know and put it in the chat. But otherwise, I want to turn it over to Shanta Driver, who is a national spokesperson for BAMN by any means necessary. She's also my attorney, and who's someone who very much has, from her own experience, as all her life, recognizes that, yeah, the authority figures, they certainly will abuse their power, but we have power too. And in speaking out and telling the truth and shining a light on what the district and the abuses of the district right now, that's a really important start, as well as taking many other kinds of actions as well. So thank you, Ms. Driver. I'll turn it over to you. And Shanta, I think you need to unmute.
Thank you. I want to begin by thanking everybody who is a part of this press conference, because what you guys are fighting over is a national fight. It's going to be taking place in city after city, in school district after school district. And the current conditions just make absolutely clear that there is no way to safely reopen the schools now. To me, there are two forms of classic discrimination that the district is engaged in. First, the district knows it can accommodate teachers. It knows that there are students and whole classes that are still going to need and want to receive remote education. And the teachers who are providing that education and have provided that education should be able to continue to provide education remotely. It's an accommodation that is so easy for the district to make. And for the district to refuse to make it just makes clear that this is discrimination against teachers who are standing up for themselves, for their families, for their students, for their communities because of the COVID crisis. Nothing has existed before this like the COVID crisis. This is a new situation, but granting teachers accommodations that are easy to grant, that is something that has gone on now for decades. And there's no reason at all for the school district to make a special exception here. I found Amy's comments really interesting because as I understand what the district was asking of her is that she provide a doctor's note that will say definitively that the fact that she has had a vaccination will not only protect her, but will protect her family members who are at high risk from coming down with COVID-19. And everyone knows there are a lot of controversies around COVID-19 and what is safe and what is not safe. But one thing that everyone agrees on is that having a vaccine does not protect anyone other than the person who has the vaccine. And so asking her to get something from a doctor saying that her vaccine will either protect or not protect family members, students, other teachers, other school workers, many of whom I'm quite certain have not been able to get vaccinated. is crazy. Yes, the answer to that is really simple. No, there's unanimous agreement that getting the vaccine does not protect anyone other than the person who's received the vaccine. So it just makes no sense to ask somebody to provide a doctor's note saying that, in part because most practitioners are not immunologists, they're not epidemiologists, they're not going to want to go out on a limb and state something that may be published and general knowledge as a professional opinion that they can render when they know that they don't have the training to be able to provide that kind of information. The second form of discrimination, and I think this is really important, and I think this is especially important for Berkeley. Over the years, in fact, for the last 50 or more years, the Berkeley School District has been dedicated to the proposition that it should be providing equal educational opportunity for every single child in the district, regardless of their income level, regardless of their ethnic or national background, regardless of their race or religion, that the right to get an education, and in particular an education in a diverse education setting, is something that is absolutely crucial to promote education that takes place in a classroom and in a school, but goes way beyond what a teacher might teach as the subject matter. By demanding that every school be completely reopened, whether there's students there or not, and saying that those schools will be open 5 days a week, means that parents, first, poor parents that have been able to make the choice to keep their children at home and to learn remotely, will no longer be able to do that. The only way that poor parents that work jobs that are minimum wage or sub-minimum wage jobs that don't have union protection, jobs that are plentiful right now, but jobs that no one should be forced to take and give up the right to be able to stay at home and continue to supervise their children's ability to learn remotely. I want to be completely clear. If this plan goes forward, more well-to-do parents, middle class, upper middle class, very wealthy parents will still have the option of keeping children home and having them learn remotely. Yes, it might be a sacrifice to the overall family income, but it is not going to mean that the people are thrown out on the street, are forced to go without food, have absolutely no income whatsoever. But for those parents who are poor and who've been given an opportunity to stay at home and to make that decision of whether it's better for their children to be in school or to learn remotely, if the schools are completely open, then the benefit that they've received, the pandemic unemployment assistance benefit that they have received, will be cut off, will be eliminated. And that kind of discrimination, that decision to deny parents who are less well-to-do, and in particular, in this case, we're talking about a lot of single mom households. We're talking about a disproportionate number of Black and Latino and immigrant and Asian American and other groups. We're talking about people that have been most vulnerable to the virus already and have had the least opportunity to receive the same kind of health care that others have been able to take advantage of. So we urge the district to stop this now, to keep the district shut down, to stop harassing teachers who have their best interest, their students' best interest, their family's best interest, and Berkeley's best interest at mind, and to grant them the accommodations they need to continue to teach students remotely. And we say to the district, do not say that the schools are wide open 5 days a week and any child who wants to be in a class can be in a class, when you know what you're really saying is, poor parent, you are mandated to send your kid back to school and take a minimum wage or whatever other job you can find to be able to provide for your family. When the district has talked about the bottom line for the district, for their business, getting money to continue to get state aid or federal aid, whatever they're fearful of losing, that this is part and parcel of the whole plan of reopening schools. It is the quickest way to eliminate the right of parents who have not wanted to go to work or get a job because they want to be home and keep their children safe, with the right to do that, and to force people back into work situations that are going to be as dangerous, if not more dangerous, as the conditions now that would exist in the schools. So I hope Berkeley changes its mind, the district changes its position and stops discriminating against the teachers who have asked for accommodation, and stops discriminating against poor parents' right to make the same decision, to have the same choices as those parents who are in the district that have higher levels of income. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanta. I want to just invite a couple other people to speak, and then we'll take questions if there's questions from the press. So first I want to ask Erica Contreras if she'd like to say something. So Erica?
Yes, I do want to mention, as a parent and a staff from King Middle School, I do not feel comfortable returning to school. I am the first person that students have contact with when they're sick, when they come to the office late. And so being in that situation puts me at risk and my children at risk. When I was asking for information about what my options were, I was told either try to get accommodations or unpaid leave. The district keeps changing, like we're seeing from like Miss Page, Miss Tally, that they're requesting additional information. And so I don't feel comfortable also disclosing personal information to the district. I shouldn't have to do that. I think that first letter should be enough and they should do that. But now it feels like we're being just forced to either return or get unpaid leave. And this is very stressful. It's a very stressful situation. I'm a single parent with 3 kids. One of them is in 5th grade. And I have 2 kids at home. There's no childcare. It's very hard to find childcare. Even if I were to have to return to school, not by choice, but because, the pressure that the district's putting on us. And I feel, that I shouldn't have to be pressured to decide whether I want to expose my children and myself to COVID or sacrifice my only income so I can stay at home with my kids. As we know, if this moves forward, I don't think that getting unpaid leave will be beneficial to many of us, because I don't think we're going to be able to get unemployment either. So basically, we're losing income or jobs just because we have decided to keep our families safe. and this shouldn't be the case. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Contreras. Thanks a lot, Erica. What you said is so true, because if the schools are open, then something called pandemic unemployment assistance, which is available to parents in your situation, to where if you're not able to work, then and you need to take time off work or can't work because you're taking care of your kids, that actually would be closed to you. So that wouldn't even be an alternative option. It's crazy, and it's discriminatory. So I have two other people. I have Ben Lynch is going to speak next, and then we'll close it with Mark Airgood. So thank you. Ben?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Benjamin Lynch, and I'm a longtime BAM organizer, but I'm also a resident and community member in the city of Berkeley. I live roughly 3 blocks from Malcolm X Elementary School, and there's already been multiple instances of, COVID spread among staff and among families at that site that BUSD has already tried to cover up. And this has occurred in this phase 1B opening plan where there's like no more than a dozen students on any given day. And okay, if you can't keep COVID from spreading with only a dozen students, like what's going to happen when you've opened up the school fully? It's just crazy. It can only get worse. I'm a research scientist at UC Berkeley, and at my lab, we are not allowed to step foot on campus or to come into work unless we can prove that we've gotten the flu shot. We get tested once a week and can prove that it was a negative test. And then you've got a different color badge to make sure that that is constantly updated. And even if you're vaccinated, you're not exempt from those requirements. So what does UC Berkeley know that BUSD doesn't? If it's not safe for university employees to congregate in a huge building, it's really not safe for teachers and more importantly, students to be jam-packed, 20 students into a room. This is just, anyway, I completely agree with what other people have been saying so far. This virus is dynamic, it's changing, there's so much we don't know. Every news story I've seen about updated investigation of the variants and kind of whether or not the vaccines apply to the variant. They all say that the variants are more contagious. And okay, the longer, we're just going to spread this around. We know what works. We know what works. What we've been doing works. It's not ideal. Nobody wants to be in lockdown, but it's better than being dead. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Ben. Julie Bartholomew is going to speak next, and then we're going to close with Mark Airgood. So Julie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Julie Bartholomew, and I'm the speech therapist at King Middle School. I work with kids with special needs, and there's quite a few SPED staff here at this meeting today. And I just want to highlight the danger that we would be putting our special education students in, and staff that work very closely with these SPED students if we were forced to return in person. If anybody has a person in their life with special needs, they know that there's no such thing as proximity or 6 feet distance when you are working with a child with special needs. Often they need physical touch and to be physically guided from place to place. I work with students on the spectrum. They have difficulty getting too close to people. They need deep pressure. They often ask for hugs. They often ask for you to massage their hands. They need physical aid. Now you tell me how that's going to pan out if we're supposed to be 6 feet apart. The other problem with this is that unfortunately there's a disproportionate amount of Black and brown students with special needs who receive special services at our school. So those are the kids that are going to be bringing home and COVID to their families. Okay. And there's already a disproportionate amount of Black and brown folks in Oakland and Berkeley that have gotten COVID, and those their neighborhoods are particularly susceptible, as we know. So it's a civil rights issue, how that these special needs kids are going to be forced to go back on campus. It really is. We also know that they're the most immunocompromised. They're the most susceptible to COVID. And then the staff, like Berkeley's not protecting their teachers. If you've ever been to King Middle School, you know that in the learning centers where the SPED teachers work, that they're a lot smaller than the classrooms, number one. Number two, they don't have sinks. Like, you can't wash your hands. I think 1 out of the 3 SPED classrooms has sinks, 1 out of 3. I work in a very small office where I run social skills groups. It's small. I have 3 like middle school kids in there at one time working on social skills and articulation. And I do speech, okay? We're talking about getting close to the face. I have to help them formulate words with their mouths. And I'm in a small office with no sink. So I just want to put that out. I just want to put that out there, give you a real clear picture of what it looks like for our SPED students and staff. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Julie. So we're going to close with Mark Airgood, and then I'll make a quick announcement. So Mark.
Hi, everyone, and thank you everyone for attending. I'm an Oakland teacher. I'm part of the Equal Opportunity Now by Any Means Necessary Civil Rights Caucus. I'm a union rep at my site, and I'm very happy that Berkeley teachers and students and families are standing up here, because I know that whatever the policy is, whatever Berkeley Unified gets away with is going to be done by Oakland tomorrow. This has been the most coordinated push to force families, students, teachers back into school across the country that I can imagine. I'm really shocked by how, you see the same story for every district and on every channel, and it's not safe. It is not safe to return before you vaccinate the children. Anytime you only vaccinate a subset of a population, transmission continues at high rates, and you have the mutations developing, and the ones that survive are those that are most able to get around the vaccines and infect people the most, that can spread the best. That's just evolution. And we're just creating petri dishes for the spread of the virus, of the mutations, and the development of mutations that can infect children more efficiently, if that's the population that are all together in a room. And I think that the bullying, which I would call it, by the Berkeley Unified District Administration is a bullying of teachers, as we're hearing today, in denial of basic rights, and it's a bullying of families, as Shanta was describing, trying to cut off aid or doing a program that will cut off aid. And I heard today, this morning on the news, that one of the conditions for Berkeley reopening is within a couple days, parents have to choose which they're going to do in class or distance learning, and it's irrevocable once they make that decision. Now, that nobody can say, I can't see the future. I think we're in the eye of the hurricane right now. Nobody can say for sure what this experiment with the children's of Berkeley's lives and the families leads to. And I'll tell you what, I don't think the Berkeley administration is ignorant of that. Why would they make it irrevocable? So thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. So before I forget, I just want to share with everyone that you are invited to join our mass organizing meeting that BAMN is holding for this Saturday. It's on Zoom. So it's on our website, and I'll email this out to everyone. We've had a couple of really, really very important national discussions. And so there are teachers and school workers, students and families that feel just as strongly as we do and who are organizing. And we're very proud to be being in the lead of that. So I'm going to open it up and see if there are any questions by anyone in the media, if you have any, before we close up for today.
I think what another thing BUSD is just trying, if so, I think they're just trying to like test if we survive or not during the class. It seems like being test subjects in a way.
That's a very good point. And children are not guinea pigs and shouldn't be treated that way. Thanks, Marha.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions from anyone in the media before we wrap up for today? Okay. Then unless there's anyone else who wants to add anything else, Marha, thank you for your pearls of wisdom. Those are absolutely true. But are there anything else anyone would like to add?
Yeah, Yvette, could I say really quickly?
Yeah, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Conaway. I'm a BAM member and a teacher in Detroit Public Schools. And I just want to say thank you all for speaking out, the teachers, the students, and the parents. It was really, really powerful to hear all your statements, and you are not alone. We're going through a very similar situation here in Detroit. And I hope that this is shared on the media. I had the opportunity to speak to the media yesterday. And today, students who said they saw me on the news and parents who saw me on the news were like so excited, because what you're all saying and what we're all saying really is what the parents and families know and feel, and they're scared too. In Detroit, they just reopened the schools yesterday, and they were claiming 20,000 students wanted to come. Less than 5,000 showed up in the schools. So we are fighting for ourselves, but also for our students and their families and their rights and their lives. So thank you. I'm very proud and happy to be here with you all.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, everyone. We really, really appreciate you coming. The people who spoke out, thank you for your courage and for your honesty and clarity. We're going to continue making this fight. And I invite everyone here to join us on Saturday for the meeting Saturday for our BAM organizing mass meeting. One last thing I want to announce is that the school board is having a meeting tomorrow. And I really encourage everyone who's here now to go to that meeting tomorrow and to speak out. Speak out on your own behalf if you're someone who's directly being impacted by this harassment by BUSD. Speak out on behalf of your coworkers, and most importantly, speak on behalf of the rights of the students and on their health and safety and of our community. Because what happens in the schools happens in the community, and vice versa. Like, we are all part of one community. And this is not about an individual choice. That's not how you defeat a pandemic. That's actually why the pandemic has continued and gotten worse, because of that theory or that justification. It's false. It has nothing to do with science. It's going to take a collective, united struggle and fight. And it's going to take people like us continuing to speak out and to coordinate and to organize. So thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow, and definitely hopefully we'll see a bunch of you on Saturday too. Thank you. Thanks a lot, folks.
I just have the question. Where's can you email us the link and tell us the date, tell us what time?
Yeah, for Saturday, Marha?
No, for tomorrow and Saturday.
Hello.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it, I'll email it to your dad, and he's spoken out at number 4, and I think this time it would be so great if you would want to speak too.
Yvette, their website says 7 p.m. open session tomorrow. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, 7 p.m.
Yeah, I included a link to their Berkeley School Board website where they have info and the link to the Zoom meeting for tomorrow evening
Okay,
in this chat.
all right, great. Thanks a lot, everyone. So feel free to copy that. I'll send out an email to everyone too. Okay, thank you. Have a good day. I'll see you all soon.
You everyone, keep up the fight.